We got half of the Mac squad. Johnny Mac had to make his way over to practice today. I believe it's Sean Desai's talking. They get a coach prior to practice, and then will they go green or yellow today? My guess is only yellow because the Eagles don't put all that much emphasis. They added the practice. I guess I shouldn't be complaining about it. They are getting some more work in, and Johnny will be over there. So I reached out to my guy, Tommy Lawlor from Eagles, IGGLES Blitz.com to jump in with me and fill the void today. TL, how's your summer going?
It's good. How are you doing?
Very good. Thank you for jumping in with us. And yes, we've got football to actually pay, not just speculate on, but be able to see and evaluate certain things that teams are doing to get ready for the regular season. And the Eagles is chief among them here on Birds 365. Howie Roseman decided to redo his linebacker room. Not from top to bottom. Nakobe Dean, if healthy, is going to be the starter middle linebacker. I just told John, I believe Nick Sirianni when he said this. This is no reflection on Nakobe Dean, at least not yet. But it certainly was a reflection on Davion Taylor, who is no longer an Eagle and doesn't bode well for Nicholas Morrow. What did you think when you heard the Eagles had signed not one, but two linebackers off the street before their practice at the Link on Sunday?
Well, if Nakobe Dean's healthy, maybe they only sign one. But with Dean banged up a little bit, I think, adding two guys is work. Listen, as much as this is about a regular season, it's also a little bit about the preseason. They've got 3 games to get through. And you don't want to just have guys out there for a ton of snaps if you want them to play for you this season. The preseason is different than the way you and I remember it from years ago when your starters ate up a lot of reps. And now they need guys to get through some of those games. But I think, honestly, the linebacker position, I think initially they wanted to give the holdovers a chance to show what they could do. And that's Sean Bradley. That was Davion Taylor. And obviously the new guy, Ben Van Sumeren. See what those guys can do. Give them a few practices. Obviously, none of them jumped out and said, wow, we're here to really push for starting time. So now all of a sudden you bring in a couple of veterans who have plenty of starts between them. You plug those guys in as your backups, and you still let Sean Bradley and Ben Van Sumeren, get reps in practice, but you just don't. There's not an impetus there to push them into key roles should somebody else get hurt, and so you needed better depth. They gave the young guys a chance. Nobody really flashed the way that they had hoped, so they needed some good backups, and I think they've got a couple of guys who, listen, they were on the street for a reason, right? Let's not oversell it, but these guys do have a history of being successful starters, so. At the least, you feel like you've got some guys who can get you through if needed.
What we do here on Birds 365 and all the other media members who cover the Eagles and shoot all our viewers and streamers, we all like to play amateur general manager and try and figure out what the roster is going to look like when they have to get down to 53. The 2 additions they made are guys who are not going to be on the practice squad. So either they're going to make the 53-man roster or they're not. Do you envision a roster that's got both of these guys making the Eagles?
No. So
it's an either or thing.
I think there's no question the Eagles like Nakobe Dean. They want that guy to be their key linebacker. We'll see. Either one of Christian Ellis or Nick Morrow still has a good chance to start. One of these guys will be there, has a real strong chance. Now, listen, they got to play well. They're not guaranteed anything. If they come in and they stink up the joint, and we've seen the Eagles bring in linebackers in the last 4 or 5 years who had promise and came in here and stunk the joint up and got cut. So these guys could fill right into that boat. But I would think one of those guys, because when you look at your depth chart, Sean Bradley you want on the team because you want him to play special teams.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's where it's going with the special teams, Tommy.
Yeah, so you keep one of these guys, and one of those guys will probably be okay with playing special teams, but you can't load up with all those guys. The other thing is you just want, you need cheap young players. And Sean Bradley's the guy that's been around for a couple of years. They'd love to keep him around, keep giving him chances to show what he can do. As we see with the safety position, Kayvon Wallace. Kayvon didn't do much his first couple of years in the league. Last year started to make some plays on defense, played better on special teams. And this year, Kayvon's having a good summer. Mm-hmm. Sean Bradley could be a guy where things finally click for him next year. Maybe he becomes an even better player next year. So you never want to get run of young players that are showing you something. And especially for a guy who's a 28, 29-year-old veteran who his best days are behind him. So to me, I don't think they would keep both, but we'll see.
So do we have to read into that Davion Taylor showed them nothing? Because they made the move away from him pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, no, he didn't show up enough. There's no question. And you go back, in 2021, he had the game against Denver. He forced a couple of fumbles. He looked athletic, and you said, okay, maybe he can build on that. Well, he didn't build on that game. Just didn't happen. And then last year, he had a great OTAs. He looked great in training camp, and in the preseason games got here. And I don't know what happened to him. He just lost it and was awful, not bad, awful in the preseason games. And so he didn't make the team last year. He was on a practice squad, and they've kept around and year 3 for him now. And they just hadn't seen the progress from him to say, let's keep investing our time in him. And I'm sure it wasn't easy, but it's one of those decisions. Football, sports in general, it's cold. You just have to walk away from guys. You may love him. He sounds like a good guy.
Right.
You just have to walk away from him and say, listen, our question right now is, can you help us win a Super Bowl? Right? We're not just trying to find some good players and do well. We want to win a Super Bowl. Can you help us win a Super Bowl? And the answer obviously was no.
And oh, by the way, even though we had a tie to the new Eagles linebacker coach, that wasn't enough to save Davion Taylor, which I like to see. Not for Davion, I feel badly for Davion, but the fact that the Eagles did not allow familiarity, or the fact that he was a third-round draft pick, and when you're cutting a third-round draft pick only this few years, it does not reflect well on the general manager. Howie Roseman didn't care. He said, I got to help this team this year, and I got to build the best team possible, roster possible. If that means admitting a mistake with Davion Taylor as a third-round draft pick, so be it. And I give Roseman credit for it. I take credit away from using a third-round pick on him, but just doubling down and continuing to have him on the team just because you called his name out a couple of years ago is not good business, and Howie did not go down that road. All right, you mentioned Kayvon Wallace getting reps actually with the first-team safeties. Most of us assumed that they were going to go with the free agent that they brought in from Pittsburgh this year as one of their starters, along with their undrafted free agent who has become a little bit of a cult hero here in Philadelphia in very short time as their starting safeties. But it was going to be a rotational position. It really wasn't last year. Only time you saw guys coming off the bench was when there was injuries. But Kayvon Wallace has fought himself into the mix for potential starter reps with this team. I didn't see it coming. Johnny Mack has said on the record he didn't see it coming either. Again, I think it bodes well for the Eagles that they're open-minded about certain things. Can Kayvon Wallace actually, this side, Reed Blankenship, who I think will get the most snaps at center, could Kayvon Wallace end up being the center, the safety who plays the second most snaps on this team this year?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. And the beauty of training camp is that everybody comes in and everybody gets a chance. That the coaches say that, and I know some fans don't believe, but the coaches genuinely, they've seen enough. They've been around long enough. They've seen guys that come in with a great track record and fail. They've seen guys that come in with a mediocre track record and succeed. Coaches are looking for good players. They don't care who they are, where they come from, third round, fourth round, undrafted, veteran, young. They're looking for players.
Yeah.
And Kayvon showed promise last year. The first couple of years, he was flat out a disappointment. There's no two ways to say it. And then last year, he got on the field at a certain point, and he started a little slow. It looked a little not so great. He made some poor decisions. And I feel like the more he played, he was able to work through any errors that came up, and he started to make plays and play with confidence. And he also played a lot on special teams. Maybe special teams gave him the confidence to succeed on defense. And now we're seeing that he's building on that. The coaches love to use that phrase, stack practices.
Yep.
Don't just have a good day, and then have another good day, and then another good day. Consistency is what they're looking for. And Kayvon has shown him something this year, and maybe he's going to be the guy that plays beside Reed Blankenship. They would love to see it because Kayvon's homegrown. So they would love to see that. And Sidney Brown has started to come on a little bit in recent days. Terrell Evans doesn't think he's been bad, but Terrell Evans, I don't think has done anything to make him go, wow, you're going to be definitively the guy. They kind of know what he is because he started 75 games in the NFL. So there's not a lot of mystery there. So let's give Kayvon Wallace a chance to show what he can do, and he's looking good. And then, like I say, Sidney Brown is doing some things as well. So safety, it's a little uncertain, but I feel like the Eagles probably like their safety group more than some people think.
And it's the second time in 2 segments I've been able to use the word ironic. It's kind of ironic at safety because I just raise a hand and say it was certainly my line of thinking. Kayvon Wallace was surpassed by Reed Blankenship. Coming into last year, Kayvon Wallace was going to be the guy. All right, well, he'll be the third. We've got 2 good safeties. When CJGJ shows up and immediately shows that he can play, all right, we're good at safety. Just got to have a number 1 backup. That'll be Kayvon Wallace. Wrong. Ends up being Reed Blankenship because he flat out outplayed him during the preseason. That goes to your point of the coaches are not beholden to where or how you were acquired. They're just going to evaluate you for what you do on the field for them. And Blankenship did that much that he elevated himself on the depth chart. Now this year, it could be Blankenship and Kayvon Wallace together. And even though Kayvon would be a bit of a surprise for us. I just talked about this with Johnny Mack before you came on. I want to get your take on it too. Surprising in camp has been the fact that Marcus Mariota has not looked good when he's gotten reps at the quarterback position. Now he's getting them with the second team. The second team center has not been good. A lot of problems with snaps and the like. But there have been a bunch of plays where Marcus has gotten a nice clean snap and protection and had time, and he airmailed the throw to his wide receivers. Anytime the starting quarterback goes down in this league, or I should say 90% of the time when the starting quarterback with San Francisco last year being the exception, you go, oh, shoot, we're screwed. Because there's a drop-off. There's a reason why one guy starts and the other's the backup. And on paper, this was a pretty good drop-off. Anybody from Jalen Hurts to whoever is going to be a pretty good drop-off. Did the Eagles mess up their selection at backup quarterback this year, bringing Marcus Mariota in? Little crystal ball got to predict for me, Tommy. Are you nervous about that?
Not really. Backup quarterback, you go through training camp history, and there's a lot of backup quarterbacks who struggled. Playing with the backups just does make things challenging for them. There's just no question. You go back to 2017, and Nick Foles was stinking up the joint. And then I seem to recall he did okay toward the end of the season, won a key game or two, if memory serves right. And so really, you never know what the coaches are grading those guys on. You know, the coaches may focus more on decision making and say, listen, if you're throwing to A.J. Brown, that play is going to work. You're going to make a better throw. He's going to be more open. The timing's going to be better. So they may focus more on decision making. You know, I don't know. It'd be interesting to speak to coaches about that. If you could get them truth serum and find out what they really think. We know what they would say, you know, through the press conferences. Everybody's great. We love them all, and things are all rosy. There's no question that Mariota struggled. He's not throwing the ball consistently well. His accuracy's been an issue. He's running way too much. And running is great in games. You know, you're making plays. But in practice, you don't want to run. You want to throw that pass. You want to give your receivers a chance to make plays. You want to see the defensive backs in coverage. So you want that ball coming out of the quarterback's hands. Him scrambling doesn't really do much. It makes something fun for the fans to watch that are at practice that day. But the coaches want to see that ball come out of his hand. And the fact he's not pulling the trigger, you'd rather him pull the trigger and take some chances than what he's doing. So I'm sure the coaches aren't thrilled that he's running as much as he is, but they also, like I say, they may be grading him a little differently, knowing the circumstances of who he's playing with, what have you. I tend to think if Marcus was on the field with the starters, had practice, was ready for a game, I think you'd see a better version. At the same time, let's be honest, he's a backup quarterback for a reason, right? He's not going to be in the anywhere close to Jalen Hurts. So can he be good enough as the backup this year? I think so, sure. But he's not a guy that we want to see on the field for 6 or 8 games. You know, let's hope Jalen stays healthy this year.
6 or 8 snaps, that'd be fine. Games, no, that might be a bit much for the Eagles to have to get over. My buddy Tommy Lawlor from Eagles Blitz, that's IGGLES, blitz.com, here with us on Birds 365. All right, this is the segment of the show where I'll advise our streamers who are diehard Eagle fans who don't like when we ask questions about potential problems for the Eagles or point out some potential issues. And I'll get people ripping me and saying, he's not really an Eagle fan. All right, well, I'll do so again now, because I think it's my job to point out both good and bad when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. You probably have heard by now, Tommy, that Jalen Hurts was ranked the third best player in the National Football League by his peers, by the players, going into the 2019 season. Did Jalen Hurts screw up by signing the contract that he signed? Because if he's the third best player, he should be getting paid more than Justin Herbert. He should be getting paid more than Joe Burrow. And, oh, by the way, I guarantee you Burrow's going to sign, and it's going to be more money than Jalen Hurts, because it only goes up. It never goes back this way. It only goes this way. Is this going to become an issue that Jalen Hurts, when all is said and done, is going to go, yeah, wait a minute, you and I, Howie, we need to sit down and redo this deal. The ink is still drying on it, but Jalen Hurts is already in a position where he can say, I'm underpaid. We got to redo this thing. I know it's not an anti-Eagle segment. It's a reality segment. And I apologize to all you Eagle fans out there who are going to hate me for ever even bringing it up, but it's a legitimate question to you, Tommy. We don't think of Jalen Hurts as a rabble-rouser, a guy who's going to come in and make waves, but everybody in the National Football League that's just the way. I took a call last night, sorry to go long-winded on you here, on WIP about why don't players just adhere to contracts? They sign contract, the contract should be in place, and I had to explain to them, you realize that owners don't guarantee all contracts. And he said, NBA, NHL, well, those sports all guarantee all the contracts. The NFL, that's not the case. Nope. Even Jalen Hurts' big contract is not completely guaranteed. That's why players, when they have unbelievable years, like, say Hassan Reddick, want to talk about getting their contract redone and reevaluated, because that's the way the NFL works. It's in the moment, kind of like Jalen Hurts being the third best player in the NFL. It's an in-the-moment vote off last season when he was that good. Should we be worried at all that Jalen Hurts is very soon to be, if not already, underpaid?
No. And I'll tell you why. He's already answered.
Thank you for saying that for me.
He's already answered the question for you. The fact that he signed first tells you he wasn't in it for every last nickel. If he truly wanted to be the highest paid of this new wave batch of quarterbacks, he would have waited for the other guys to sign, and he would have signed after them. Jalen wanted to get the deal done. He wanted to get his money, and he wanted to focus on football. He got so close to winning a Super Bowl last year, and that is driving him like nobody's business to get back there and finish the deal this year. He didn't want to be worrying about a contract during training camp leading into the season. He wanted that in his rear view mirror. Yeah, so Justin Herbert got a few extra dollars. Joe Burrow get a few extra dollars. Jalen doesn't care about that. He's got big money in the bank. He's set for life. He wants to focus on winning. He wants to go win a Super Bowl. He's not going to worry about a few dollars here and there.
And I mentioned him as well, Hassan Reddick, which, let me just set the record straight here, because I'm already taking on the commentary here on the stream. The media did not bring up Hassan Reddick's contract. Hassan Reddick brought up Hassan Reddick's contract because he was asked a question about how he grades himself, how he motivates himself. And he said, we have players in the league who motivate themselves, who get themselves driven by their contracts. He brought up contracts first. He wasn't asked about a contract. He took the conversation there. Then the follow-up question absolutely went to contracts, and he went off on it. But he, again, did not say, yes, I need to be paid more. I need to renegotiate. He didn't do that. So that's to Hassan Reddick's credit. But this line of Hassan didn't bring it up. The media did. No. Hassan brought it up. So sorry for that, Eagle fans. If you want to continue to believe that untrue narrative, that's not the way it went down. But it became a story here in town. It's kind of been pushed to the background again, which is a good thing. But we'll see if Hassan plays any. Do you think he's going to play any in preseason? We know what Hassan Reddick is. Do you really think Hassan Reddick needs work on the new Sean Desai defense? I don't. Are we going to see Hassan Reddick play at all in the preseason. I'm sure he's going to play some in the joint practices because his coaching staff put an emphasis on that. But is this story going to go away that Hassan Reddick and the Philadelphia Eagles should be talking about a contract extension?
He will not play in the preseason. You're right. He'll play in the joint practices. You're absolutely right on that. Um, Listen, the Eagles will have a good feel for what his true feelings on this are. They could wait until next offseason and address his contract. Then they'll have 2 years of information, and they could say, all right, you've outplayed your contract. There's no question he outplayed it, but you have to be careful about a guy outplaying it after 1 year, right? Because 1 year is that anomaly. Jason Babbitt had the 18 sack year and then never came close to that again in the NFL.
All right, so let me interrupt you and I'll let you finish your thought. For me, just if I were a general manager, the perfect time to do something like this is midway through a contract. They only signed a 3-year contract with him. So he hasn't reached the midway. And you're right, it's still just 1 year that he had this unbelievable season. But if you wait till the end of the year, now you're 2/3 of the way through the contract and you only got 1 year left to go. And if you're Hassan Reddick, you want it done ahead of time. So the optimum place to do it would be like mid-season this year because you're in the middle. There's more than a year left. You're more than a year into the contract. Is that feasible that the Eagles do something in the middle of the season?
It's possible. And this is where you and I are on the outside. We don't know what his agent is like. And Howie Roseman is going to have a good feel for that agent. And if Howie feels like I can talk to the agent during the season, we can work out some incentives and make this all go away because they don't need to give him a new contract. Just add some incentives. And I think you can solve a lot of this. So if you just tweak his current contract and if Howie feels like it won't be a distraction to Hassan, then you can work on it into the regular season. If they feel like Hassan's really upset, this has to be dealt with now, then you get with his agent right now and you make it a focal point. And you work now again. You're working behind the scenes, but I think this is solvable. It isn't like he's halfway through a contract that he's like year 3 of a 6-year deal or something like that. He's played 1 year on the deal. He got good money. It's not like the guy's super underpaid. He's just he played better than anybody anticipated. Right. So this is not like a guy who's getting $1.5 billion or something like that. He made what, 14, 15 million bucks last year. So he had a good deal. They just need to tweak it a little bit to give him some more in case he has another 15, 16, 17 sack year. You want to make sure that you're paying a guy and he's happy.
Let me ask you a question about incentives just in general. When it comes to football, I'm tentative about it if I'm a general manager. Because there's play calling on a day in, down in, down out basis where you're going to ask guys to do something the great majority of the time, but every once in a while you're going to have a Hassan Reddick coming off the line and actually having to cover a back coming out of the backfield, or whatever. And that is predetermined before the players run. And if you're making that much more per sack, you don't ever want that play called from the sideline. You want to be going up the field on every single play all season long because I make that much more if I'm going to get sacks. So you get a guy who, depending on the play call, isn't happy with it. And he comes over and he lets his coach know about it. And then you're not staying in the moment of the game. Does that bother you at all? Does it cause you any fear if you're a general manager, be giving a guy an incentive-laden contract who then might look at the way the play calling is going down as a deterrent from them keeping the chance to make their money?
There's some risk there for sure. No question about it. Hassan, I feel like, is enough of a team player that, again, I think he's going to focus on the big picture, trying to win. And it's not like you're going to give him $1 million a sack, right? We don't know if you're talking about $50,000 a sack, $100,000 a sack, whatever you're giving him. So if he gets 14 versus 16, it's not like it's a fortune that he's losing. And again, he's got a good salary to start with. This is not like a player that they signed on the cheap and he's just way outperformed the deal and he is just miserable right now. He's a little frustrated that other guys are making more than him. And he feels like he was the best pass rusher in the NFL last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a reasonable take from him. And I think he's going about things the right way. This isn't like some TO situation where it's some huge distraction, whatever. He's just letting the Eagles know, listen, I had a great year last year. I have a really good contract, but maybe not a great contract. I'd like a great contract or reflect a great year. So I don't have any problem with what he's doing. And incentives, you're taking a chance there, but there is no perfect solution other than you just hand a player a gazillion dollars and say, let's keep him happy. Well, that's not the NFL. You got a salary cap, you got teammates to worry about, things of that nature. So you have to take some risk somewhere. So I think incentives, I think if you're dealing with a high character player like Hassan Reddick, I think you'd be okay.
All right, let me ask you one more thing. And again, there are directions that the NFL is taking, and Eagles either get out and lead or follow suit with certain positions in the National Football League. All the rave all offseason was the devalued running back. Well, the Eagles had already done that. They let Miles Sanders walk. They brought in guys for less. They trade for DeAndre Swift, who's on the last year of a rookie deal, so you know what his cost is going to be, not outrageous. They get Rashad Penny on the cheap. They get Boston Scott back on a very team-friendly deal. So Miles Sanders making more money than the entire Eagles running back room. They're in the mix with everybody in the NFL. I think they were in the mix with the NFL in the devalued linebacker position, and they had to acknowledge that this weekend and add guys. Again, don't know the details on the contract yet, guaranteed money, but at least the way it's been reported minimally to this point, each of the two linebackers they sign have a chance to make up to $2.5 million. We'll figure out how up to is broken down coming up. And then you have the position that's already been devalued for years in the National Football League, and that's kicker, be it either punter or place kicker. The fact that teams will just say, well, we'll get somebody off the street when need be, just blows my mind in something as important. And I think kicker is more important than punter, but don't tell that to Eagle fans when they have a punter get off a Shankopotamus in the Super Bowl and it ends up being a major factor in them not winning the game. Yeah, I wanted to come out and make fun of the Cowboys today because they had to cut their kicker, Tristan Vizcaino. Who's Tristan Vizcaino? It was the Cowboys kicker up until 2 days ago. Now their kicker is somebody named Aubrey, who I've never even heard of. He used to be a soccer player. He played professional soccer, and then he played for Birmingham in the USFL. First time he ever played football in his life, and now he's their lead kicker in camp right now. So the fact that the NFL just doesn't put any money or any effort into having the best kickers boggles my mind. So I wanted to poke fun at the Cowboys today. But then again, Aaron Siposs is still here as the Eagles punter. Is this going to be a catch-can off the street? If Siposs doesn't get the job done, are they going to be reaching out for a new punter before the season, in season? How concerned are you with the Eagles punting situation?
It's definitely something to pay attention to. The Eagles had the 5th fewest punts in the NFL last year, so it's not a critical position for them the way it would be for a team, I don't know, say like the Tennessee Titans that runs the ball, plays possession-heavy football, field position's critical for them. So for them, punter's a position that you really have to have a good player. The Eagles are going to go for it on 4th down. They have an aggressive offense. They throw the ball down the field. So they don't have as many punting situations where it's critical. But that said, we saw it hurt them in some games in the regular season, and it absolutely crushed them in the Super Bowl. So they need to be better, whether that's Siposs or somebody else. You know, they brought in Zentner, the undrafted rookie. He's not impressed this summer. They will be watching other games, preseason games, and checking the waiver wire to see if there's a better option. Now, the Eagles still like Siposs. There's something they like about him. I don't fully understand it, but if they feel comfortable with him, they'll go with him. But I guarantee they're at least looking around to see if there are better options. You know, last year when he got hurt, they brought in Brett Kern, the veteran, but a great track record, and Kern just struggled. So there's not always great punting options available because it's not just about leg strength. It's about skill of getting that ball, getting hang time, getting accuracy. And that's a tough thing for guys to kind of hone those skills. And there's just not 32 really good punters in the world. So sometimes that's a position where you have to go with the guy that you feel like is good enough. And Siposs, you know, last year he was good enough to help win a lot of games, just not good enough to help win the Super Bowl.
Tommy, for any of our streamers that are planning on going to Eagles, IGGLESblitz.com, what's the next posting going to be about? Give us a little bit of a hint to be on the lookout for it.
I'm going to write about how negative Jody McDonald is and how people shouldn't trust him.
Killing me. Now I got to hear it from you. It's bad enough I got to take it on the stream. I got to take it from you too, Lawlor.
What can I say? The topics present themselves.
Yes, they do. And I present them and get your input, Johnny Mac's input, and our streamers' input.
I knew John would be disappointed if I didn't come at you with something like that.
That's good. So. Yeah, I know. I got it. Just having fun. That's what we do here on Birds 365, and you add to it whenever you come on. Tommy, thanks. We'll certainly be getting you up before the season gets underway. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks.
Tom Lawlor, Eagles, IGGLES, Blitz.com. All right, Jody Mac coming back. We'll get Ricky Ricardo up. Ricky will come on, and he'll do nothing but tell you how great the Eagles are going to be. I'll ask him some questions about question marks going into the season for the Eagles. Ricky will have all the answers. It'll be a foregone conclusion that they're not only going to, but win the Super Bowl again. Maybe that's what he'll give us. I don't know. You're going to have to stay tuned to find out. Ricky Ricardo, voice of the Eagles and Espanol, joining us hour number 2 here on Birds 365.